Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so I have been doing a lot of pondering a lot about happiness, and I wanted to do a quick podcast because I had some inspiration the other day. So I was listening to this amazing book, and he was talking about being happy. And I was just like, okay, yeah, this has been on my mind. And because I find it amazing. Have you ever had it where you all of a sudden, you just feel this elated feeling. You're feeling so good. Maybe things aren't quite in line, but you feel great. Like right now you feel great. You feel this sudden burst of happiness. And you feel all this positivity and possibilities. And then almost immediately after feeling that, it's like this dark cloud comes in and just starts raining on your parade. It's just like, or if maybe somebody comes in the room, like my child, and they start screaming because they just got hurt or whatever. And then all of a sudden, all the good feelings go away and it's all dampened. It's just like, aw. And it's just like, well, that was nice to feel that for a second, and then you carry this, well, I should go back to my normal, plateaued mood here. and then, or if you're feeling elated and all of a sudden for no reason, there's this dark cloud that comes over you and you're just like, and then you start thinking, who am I, to be so happy? And what if something goes wrong? And, and then I regret feeling so happy. And so you go back to that mediocre feeling again. And you just keep happy, just kidding, happy, back. And it's amazing how things will be going good, maybe in your relationships and in your marriage. And then all of a sudden, it's like we self-sabotage. So we see something petty and we get upset about it. It's almost a jerk reaction. Like we have to ruin the happiness that we feel. And anyway, and so I was listening to this book and he was talking about, why do we do that? And I suddenly came into my head this historical story that's in the Book of Mormon. If you haven't ever heard of the Book of Mormon, it's another testament of Jesus Christ. And in my religion, we read the Book of Mormon along with the Bible because they coincide and they support each other. And anyway, there's this story in there. There's this historical story. And this happened, thousands of years ago on the American continent. So while the Bible was happening and all the, Jesus coming and everything and all that going on, there was a group of people that had, lived in Jerusalem, and they had broken off and they had traveled for years to what they called the Promised Land. And they sailed across the sea and whatever. Anyway, they came over to the American continent is where somewhere they ended up being over there. So anyway, so one of the stories that is told by the prophets that were on that continent was about this group of people. So when Christ died and was resurrected, he actually went and visited these people, and he, organized his gospel and, taught them, and showed him the nails and the prints in his hands, from him being crucified, because they knew the stories of Jesus. They had, they knew the prophecies and stuff, and they tried to follow as best as possible. And anyway, Jesus came to them, and after he left, he dwelt with them for a period of time. And after he left and ascended back to his Father, back into heaven, then those people had peace and love and no contention, zero contention and happiness for 3 300 years. So each generation, so for generations, they felt nothing but peace and joy and happiness, and they were just like, they were a delightsome people, is what the scriptures say. Never was there a more delightsome people, and they were just happy all the time. And this story came into my mind. I'm like, they did it. And I know one of the reasons is because Jesus is, after Jesus left, he left them with his spirit, and it was so strong. I'm like, of course they would have peace, and whatever. But for almost 300 years, how is that possible? To have zero contention, zero robbers, zero envyings or strifes or anything, jealousy, none of that existed for almost 300 years. I'm like, how is that possible? So I went to the scriptures. I'm like, what's the secret? And I read that entire chapter to find that secret, and I found it. It was because they had the love of God. They allowed the love of God to dwell within their hearts. And it just was like, duh, boom, that's it. So there is nobody more loving and more understanding than our God. And if anybody is familiar with the Bible and the 10 Commandments, the first commandment is to love God and to love your neighbors as yourself. That's the first commandment. They obviously were following that first commandment. They loved God and loved their neighbors as as themselves. So if you keep the love of God in your hearts, then it holds no room for animosity, for jealousy, for anything. You understand better. You're able to move, to get over things faster, or just not even get upset over silly things. I also thought further, and I'm just like, well, is it truly possible for us? Well, yes, it is. Because Jesus, when he, a lot of people, we focus on, how he died on the cross and died for our sins. But more significantly, before that ever happened, he suffered in the Garden of Gethsemane. And he didn't just suffer for our sins there. He suffered the pains of the world. Every single broken heart, every single physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain, every single pain you have ever felt or will feel, he already overcame it. And if Jesus already overcame it, he did that so that we could be happy. And literally, whenever, we're feeling happy, and then all of a sudden the dark cloud comes in, that's literally the adversary. That's literally Satan being like, no, you can't be happy. He doesn't want us to be happy. He wants us to be miserable. And so, but Jesus overcame all things. And we can literally kick those doubtful, unhappy, negative thoughts to the curb. Be like, Christ overcame all things. And he did it so that I could be happy. And so that I could be able to overcome. And because Jesus overcame all things, it means that we can overcome all things. And we can be happy. So choose happiness. And anytime that you start feeling elated and happy and that dark cloud comes in, you tell that cloud to take a hike, because you are allowed to feel happy. You're not going to ever be perfect in this life, and life isn't going to go exactly how you plan it all the time. And there is going to be things that happen that are totally out of your control. But because of God, because of Christ, all things are possible. All things are. And you can be happy anyway. It's okay to be happy even when life is sometimes crappy. It's okay to be happy when it's crappy. So my challenge to everyone today is to help make the world a better, more positive place. And let's choose to be happy. Let's choose to be happy anyway. And let's choose to trust God. And because Jesus already overcame all things, let's give it all to God. Let's give all of our problems to God and allow Him to dwell within our hearts and have more peace and happiness in our lives. All right. Rock on, everyone.